Well, we're here. Thank you very much for joining me on the Running Deep podcast.
Thank you for having me.
No worries at all. Well, where do you want to start with this? Like, where do you want to start? Because they're I'm reading everything here, and what we just spoke about before getting on here. We've got a lot to talk about.
We got a lot to talk about.
So for the audience and the listeners right now, Dani and I, we've known each other for
3-4 years almost.
Yeah, and that was through the hospitality industry, and as we both know, is a very, very toxic environment. But I think you actually saw me
At your worst.
Yeah.
Man.
Did you know? Like back then, did you know? Did you have an idea of what was going on?
I knew you had a problem.
Really?
Yeah, because when we were working at the bar and you would finish in the restaurant, you would come to the bar and just be off your head. And that wasn't even midnight yet.
Yeah, okay.
You'd be on it.
I think
But it was weird because you were in this like gymming training phase as well where you were like buffing up, and
I think that was just sort of like me to just like, it was like a justification if I can work out and keep somewhat fit or just go to the gym, I can justify that with drinking and go, it's okay. So cool. That was really not I was actually talking about that 2 days ago with Jess.
Yeah.
And no, yesterday.
Yeah.
And we're talking about how my cycle for 2 weeks was finish work at 12, 1, 2, absolutely blind drunk, and then wake up at 10 or 11, go back to work by 12 and repeat every fucking day.
How did you do it?
I don't know, because I was hungover every single day. And then, I just, because that was the job and that's hospitality, no one gives a shit.
Yeah.
Drinking culture and that is huge.
We did.
Coke, huge. Like, you were in the you were in the bar.
Front, yeah.
But we won't say what hotel.
Yes. Let's keep that under wraps.
But yeah, so look, let's take a step back. Let's go into Dani's life. So we're just saying before that you moved here from, and as you can tell by her accent, she is from, I'm not even going to try to say it in South African accent. No, I'm not going to.
Give it a whirl.
No way in hell.
South Africa.
I'm not going to say that. I'm going to embarrass myself. So you moved here from South Africa at the age of 24.
Yeah. So before I moved here, I lived in Thailand for a year.
So for reference, how old are you now?
I'm 30. I've just turned 30.
Cool.
So I was in a almost 10-year relationship before I started my traveling journey. And my partner at the time was super, success focused, career driven, just wanted to make money. And I got to that stage at about 23 where I wanted to travel, and experiences were more important to me than the money or the materialistic aspects of life. And I think because I'd only ever known him, I was really unhappy for a good 4 years of that 9-year relationship. And I finally, we broke up. And it was weird at how, like, I'm massive on divine timing and how the universe works in our favor. I'd applied for a job at a resort in Thailand the week of us breaking up, the Monday. And I was just like, if I get it, if it comes to fruition, great. If I don't, also good, I'll accept it. And that was the Monday. And the Wednesday, we broke up. And the next morning, I slept at my mum and my dad's house. And the next morning, I woke up with an email saying I got the job and I leave the following Tuesday.
So you were in South Africa at this?
Yeah, I was in Durban.
Gotcha.
And the next week, I packed my bags, all my belongings in a bag, and off I went to Thailand. It was insane. The best experience of my life. I made beautiful friends there that I'll have for forever. And that's where if I didn't go to Thailand, I would never have ended up in Australia. I met my ex-partner, we met in Thailand. And yeah, it was just one of those things of like love at first sight, boom, we were like joined at the hip. And he was working on a yacht as a purser of a yacht in Cairns or Darwin or something like that. And so we were apart for a while, like every 6 weeks or so he would come back, and I moved back to South Africa after my contract had ended. And yeah, I was there for about 3 months. But before that, when I was 21, my mum was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. So mum fell one day, hit her head on a wall. She was making her bed, and her foot got caught up in the doona. And she just fell and didn't hit her head like frontal on the forehead, but hit it like on the soft spot at the top of your head. And Dad and I were actually sitting in the lounge, and we heard the thud
of her head.
Of her head hitting the wall. Fuck. And since that day, she just went downhill. And I was studying my sports and exercise science.
It was just like on set?
Yeah.
Just from hitting her
like
head?
That.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. So the next day, it was like the balance was off, the speech was slurred. She started getting a bit of like jitters here and there. But it was like only in the mornings she started gaining a bit of weight. And I think I was studying, so I was learning. I wanted to specialize in like disabilities or people with disease. So meaning I wanted to really like work with people with Parkinson's or Alzheimer's or whatever the case may be. And I was sitting in a lecture the one day, and the dude, my lecturer, was we were talking about Parkinson's disease, and every single symptom that he was listing about Parkinson's, it was like...
Oh, you're kidding.
It was like a light bulb moment. I left class on a Saturday morning, went home, and I sat my dad down, and I was like, dude...
Your stomach would have dropped.
100%. I felt like I was going to just projectile vomit all over the classroom. It was sickening.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those, it was like a knowing. Like I knew something was wrong with my mum. And when it was like that lecture was at the perfect time, the perfect day.
How that works.
Yeah. And I went home and I told my dad, I think mum's got Parkinson's disease. And he was like, oh, don't be stupid. Like that's crazy. And bearing in mind, mum and dad had been together for 40 years. Yeah. 40 years by then. So I think that your childhood sweetheart, you don't really want to get ill like that. You don't want anyone you love to get ill like that. Mum fell sick with like a stomach bug, and we took her to the hospital, and she was getting treated and stuff on like drips and IVs and whatever. And I went to the doctor and I was like, look, I think mum's got Parkinson's disease. You need to do tests, and don't tell my dad. Because with Parkinson's, there's no actual scan, no MRI, nothing can pick it up. It's all a physical test. So the doctor will be like, do this, with your fingers, or stick your tongue out and your arms up in the air and wave your tongue around. And people with Parkinson's or PD can't do that. And I'll never forget, mum was...
That's so interesting.
It's crazy.
Like for something you can't diagnose by, blood test or anything like
Fully.
that. And how it's all been set up, it's like you've got some divine being looking down on you guys to figure that out.
Yeah. The interesting thing though is with all my research is you could be a perfectly healthy 19-year-old. There was a case study I read that this dude was 19 and he went out on the piss and he took, I think it was Molly.
I remember that guy.
And he woke up with full-blown Parkinson's at 19.
The thing with that, I remember that story. He said this is the real story of what happened. He took a pill and said it was one pill. Mm-hmm. The real story came out, it was like ketamine, pills, coke. So he mixed, like, it was something else. 4 different drugs on one night on a huge bender after 3 days.
Oh my God.
And then something happened and he only said it was one pill, but it ended up being a cocktail of pills that completely fucked him up.
Cheeky bugger. Because it all affects your dopamine, right? That's what Parkinson's is.
Really?
Yeah. So
I had no idea.
Yeah. So your dopamine is so far in the middle of your brain that ours will flick at a rate of that, like normal. Yeah. Whereas like my mum with Parkinson's would flicker way slower. So the dopamine's being released through the body a lot slower. That's why you start shaking, because your nervous system can't keep up. Wow. Yeah. So
yeah,
she was diagnosed with that when I was 21, just to give you some background there. And when I was in Thailand, she got really, really bad. So because I'm the youngest, I've got a brother, Sean, that's 33. And Sean and my dad just kept it from me. Like, didn't tell me anything. If I'd ask when I'd phone home, how's mum doing? Yeah, good. She's all cool. And then when I got home, after being away for so long.
And you were away for?
I think it was about 7 months.
Yeah.
7 or 8 months. And when I got home, I was just like, holy shit. What the fuck has happened to you? Like, we had a huge family fight because of it.
Did you find it? Was there a reason for your dad and your brother to hold that from you, or was that to keep you safe, or
Yeah, I think in hindsight now, I look at the situation, and my dad knew that I hadn't lived my life fully because I was so tied down in a relationship for so long, and then I finally had the courage to just go, you know what, screw it, I'm leaving, and he didn't want me to come home for that reason. You know, in his mind, I reckon Sean and my dad had it all under control.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
So they didn't want to ruin my experience of like living Vida Loca in Thailand and then come home and, you know, I knew what was happening. It was more of like, okay, this is what's been happening since you've been away. And it was hectic.
Yeah.
Hectic.
And then by this point, you know, when did you decide? So you've come home, you've realised mum's really, really sick. So at what point do you decide, you know, you transition, you go to Australia? When does this come along? Because you know she's sick, you know it's all going to go downhill, but when do you go? Or have I got the timeline wrong on that one?
No, you're pretty spot on. When I got home in July, and my partner at the time that I met in Thailand, he came over to South Africa for a visit. He actually landed on my birthday in September.
Oh, okay.
And so I'd been home about 3 months already, 2-3 months. And he was there for 10 days. He met the family. He loved it. He spent a lot of time with my dad. And then we were discussing him moving to South Africa. And I said to him, look, you don't really understand it, how it works. Like when I'm at work, you can't just catch a taxi and go down to the local. It doesn't really work that way. So he quickly realized that it's a very, very different country compared to Australia.
I think, so for the audience, I know Durban like the back of my hand just due to both my parents being ultra endurance athletes as well. And they would run the Comrades Marathon, which is an 89-kilometre ultra marathon from Durban to Pietermaritzburg. So essentially from Burleigh to Brisbane. Yeah. So it's a day. You got 12 hours to finish it. So I used to go to Durban quite a bit, and in a lot of ways, Durban is very similar to the Gold Coast. I think if you look on a map and draw a line from like Durban to the Gold Coast, it's very, very spot on.
100%.
But I think the only difference is you get really cold fronts that come up from
Cape Town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
for sure.
There's a lot of black people everywhere.
Look, yeah, and the problem there, and it's I always get the question like, are you racist because I'm South African?
Oh fuck.
And it's not that. It's not about a black or white thing, or it really isn't. It's more of the problem in South Africa is an education. So they're not educated on. You're right.
Yes. Sorry guys, I just touched the mic and did something weird. All good.
They're not educated. So like the newer generations are being taught by their family members that lived through apartheid. So they're still bitter. So they are basically, when their kids are in school, they teaching them what they went through. So it's making the younger generations angry. Yeah. So it's just this vicious cycle, you know what I mean? And there's no government support. So when you don't have money, or when you're not getting support from the government, what are you going to do if you literally don't have 2 cents to scratch your ass with?
Crime.
100%. And that's the problem.
I think that was the biggest wake-up call for me when we went, was we were in, not Victoria, no. Forgot the joint.
In Durban?
Yeah.
Belito? Umhlanga?
Just up from Umhlanga. and you're in a really nice neighborhood, and all the houses have, it's a bit of culture shock, like barbed wire and electric fencing, and you're going, why is this? And we noticed one night we got whilst we were staying in, because Dad used to live there, St. Lucia. He used to teach up in St. Lucia.
Shit, okay.
So he would tell me all the crazy stories and whatnot, and you didn't think it was real until, you get a knock on the door and you look at it and there's two black gentlemen standing there looking. They're not trying to sell anything. No. They're just seeing if anyone's home so they can jump the fence.
They're looking dodgy as.
Real dodgy. So then, chase them off and then go away. So it was a lot of, culture shock for me there.
Yeah.
And so going back to, moving countries was the main reason because of your boyfriend at the time?
Yeah.
Or just you wanted to get out of the country?
Growing up, I'd always wanted to leave. Like, I never felt like South Africa was my home.
Mm-hmm.
I always had, I had friends, a group of friends there that I'm still friends with some of them, but they, when I phone back home, it's all the same thing. They're still doing the same thing with the same people, doing the same thing on the weekends.
I think that's relative to
but
everybody.
It's so, I think it's different for me because I'm living this kind of life.
Yeah.
And then it's like I look at that life and I think to myself, one of my friends actually asked the other day, where do you think you would be if you didn't leave your ex and you didn't move here? And I was like, probably married and my second kid on the way, for sure. Because in my circle, that's what they do. You get married, you have kids, and all of you do it at the same time. And I just had a super different mindset where I was like, I wanted to, after Thailand was like, that was my epiphany, where I was surrounded by so many different cultures every single day. I was learning how to greet in so many different languages, and I'd made friends from all over the world, a lot from Australia, but all over the world. And when my partner at the time wanted to move to South Africa, I was like, mate, no. If you've been brought up in a first world country, I don't think that transition going to a third world country is pretty easy.
No, definitely not.
100%. So he was like, all right, let's try get you to Australia. And that's when the journey started. Like,
and this is where I wanted to transition into, is, from a very young age, very young age, you're not, no stranger to, difficult times. So, of course, this is where the journey starts. And what was your biggest hurdle? You're 24 at this point.
Yeah.
Your mum has Parkinson's. You're leaving everybody behind to move to a different country. And that's all well and good. That's exciting, But then after that sort of wears off, the novelty wears off, that you're here now. You've plateaued, you've peaked, you've gone, yep, I'm in Australia now.
Yeah.
What was your biggest what was the difficult part about that? Because it's not it's definitely not easy to move interstate, let alone, a country. So if you can guide us through that.
Oh man. I think the biggest challenge for me was when I first moved, I came here on a visitor's visa. So I had to leave the country every 3 months for 7 days and re-enter because it was like a multiple entry visa. I know. So that's just unnecessary money spent right in my head. So I wasn't able to work for a good 6 months of being in Oz. So my partner at the time was going to work and I was just stuck at home. I was like, I had friends, really close family friends in Sydney. That's where we moved to. And it was a massive culture shock. I remember wanting to go for a run. One night it was like 8 o'clock and my partner was like, go. And I was like, you're kidding? At 8 o'clock and it's pitch black outside and I must go for a run. He's like, you're safe. You're totally fine. So I remember running with one headphone in because I wanted to hear what was going on behind me. And kept like looking back the whole time. And it was a short run. It was like a 5K run, but it felt so long because I still felt so unsafe.
In the
I hadn't gotten used to my environment yet. But I think the most challenging thing was being away, knowing I was going to be away from my family and friends indefinitely, like for a long time. Like I knew Thailand, I was going to go home eventually, but I knew moving here, I was immigrating, and just not working. I think I've worked since I was 16 years old, so it was a big shock, and being codependent on my partner at the time and being fully, I'm your dependent. You have to pay for everything. I had no independence whatsoever.
You had no income. You had nothing.
Nothing. Nothing.
That's tough.
Yeah.
See, I experienced somewhat of that. So when Jess, my partner, and I got together, I ended up doing a snow season. We did very similar to you, but all in Australia, and head over heels for each other. Fell in love ever since. And when we moved to Melbourne together, so we lived in Melbourne for 2.5, 3 years. That first 6 months was one of the hardest 6 months of my life, even, in relation to my drinking habits and whatnot. Because when I moved to Melbourne, I actually didn't know anyone. I had absolutely no one.
Not one person.
Not a single person. I didn't have a job, and Jess flew out of the country because she was a flight attendant for Qantas. So she was out, 3 to 4 days of the week, and I'm at home alone, and I had absolutely nobody. So what do you do when you're bored? You're 19, 20 years old.
Yeah, you get on the piss.
You just get on the piss.
100%.
That's how you find your friends. So I luckily enough, I found friends at the gym who I'm still friends with to this day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can somewhat relate-ish.
It's daunting.
Man.
It pushes you out of your comfort zone.
I would cry. There was a lot of crying for me. So actually the only person I knew was her family. So she had family there, but I was very new into the relationship with her, so I couldn't just go to.
It's awkward.
It was
awkward phase.
So I was like, oh, okay. So I can understand, from that perspective of just what the fuck? What do you do?
Yeah.
So moving forward from that, you find that was the job that we know each other through. Was that one of your first, or how?
No. So I think we were in Sydney for 6 months, and we were offered a job on Norfolk Island, literally in the middle of fucking nowhere. Yeah. It is so tiny on the map. And we decided, let's just go do 6 months there. So my partner at the time, he was going to be like a consultant kind of thing, where he is the restaurant manager and gets everything up and running and, brings in the different trainings and stuff from mainland, being Australia. And dude, let me tell you, that was the longest 6 months of my life. Oh my God. We didn't even stay there for 6 months actually.
What do you do on an island that small?
Mate, and it's one of the most haunted islands in the South Pacific.
Why is that?
Because it used to be a prison. So all the Aussies and the New Zealanders, the prisoners used to be shipped to Norfolk Island. Dude, if you have ever experienced something like spiritual or
this could be
paranormal,
a podcast in itself.
Holy shit.
Yeah, no, I'm not into that.
I swear, I didn't have a good night's sleep for the full solid 3 months. It was insane. It was a good experience, beautiful spot.
Yeah.
But 1,500 people maximum live there.
Yeah.
And cold, windy, because you're literally in the middle of nowhere. And it's just a really small island where people are in everybody's business. Everyone knows. It's so incestuous, not being mean, but it is such an incestuous.
Everyone knows everyone's business.
And that one's hooking up, a 21-year-old's hooking up with a 65-year-old. It's just weird for me. Not judging, but kind of. But it was just weird for me.
So I'm just I'm connecting the dots all here right now. It's not like you had it tough, but you had it tough.
Yeah.
So it's not like you had a really bad upbringing or anything like that. But it was, again, we'll get further into this. I think that's, character building into who you are now.
Yeah.
So this is where I'm heading.
Okay.
Headed. So if you want to feel the guys or the audience, the guys, girls, whoever, so you found out your mum has got Parkinson's, and she only recently just passed away, unfortunately.
Yeah, so mum passed on the 15th of January 2021, so this year. Yeah.
And then the big one is your dad.
Yeah.
So that's where I wanted to head. And
Cool.
if you're comfortable with this one.
100%.
Cool. So your dad, unfortunately, out of nowhere, well, he'd known for 6 or so months.
Yeah.
And he, out of nowhere, just died of cancer.
Yeah. So that was December 2019. So I lost mum and dad 13 months apart.
So it was your dad first?
Dad first.
Gotcha.
And dad and I, it was always mum and Shawnee, like mummy's little boy, daddy's little girl. And dad and I were two peas in a pod. Like our thinking, everything, our sense of humour, everything I did, he understood me like nobody's ever understood me to this day. And I remember seeing him, doing a video call with him and being like, holy shit, you've got skinny. Like, what are you doing, dude? It's like, oh, just watching what I eat, blah, 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 blah.
He hasn't told you yet?
No one. Like, no one.
Wait, so he never told anybody?
No.
And he just passed away?
Yeah. So,
mate,
The
wow.
plot thickens.
Shit.
The plot thickens. The cheeky bastard was so calculated about it. Well, in hindsight, now that we all know. So what happened was, I think it was like, so the 6th of December or the 3rd of it, one of the two, 6th or the 3rd, my brother was held up at gunpoint in Johannesburg.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, you're like, oh, okay, makes sense.
Makes sense.
So 3 guys came in at 3 o'clock in the morning, shoved guns in him and his partner's face and her mum and her dad's face, tied them up, and just went ham in the house. Like, just took everything. You know how
many South Africans I've heard of the exact same story?
It's insane.
It's like so frequent. Anyway, keep going.
Okay. So Shawnee had that trauma that he was dealing with, and I think it was about, it must have been close to like Christmas Eve or like around the 23rd that Sean went to Durban to go see my folks for Christmas. And when he got there, he just got to an absolute shit show. So mum was in the room. Dad was my mum's sole carer. So mum was in the room. Really, my mum weighed like 46 kilos. And then my brother, my dad was lay on the couch. But to give you a bit of like perspective on what my dad was like, my whole life, my dad would wake up, freshly shave every day, put his aftershave on, iron shirt, iron pants, like just really, really schmick. He always brushed his hair. He smelled so good. Just a really proud man and well presented. And when my brother got there, he was lying on the couch, just like basically lifeless, like just skin and bone. And he had actually wet himself on the couch and did not know.
Shit.
So I think by that stage, like his organs and stuff started failing already. And Sean was just like, my poor brother was like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, this is just, I don't think he could comprehend at how, like, what was happening.
It would be surreal.
Yeah.
Because it's just come on so onset out of nowhere.
100%.
Yeah.
And he, obviously my dad didn't want to upset my brother, and they protected him and they protected me. And when Sean got there, it was like damage control, right?
Yeah.
And I think they had Christmas. And my dad was a smoker. He smoked all my life. And my brother said to me, I know Dad's not well because he bought a pack of ciggies on Saturday. And by Wednesday or something, like the middle of the week, he had only smoked 2.
Ooh, yeah.
Now, when my dad was sick, he would have like freaking bronchitis and he would still smoke half a pack of cigs. So we knew that was a proper sign that something was seriously wrong.
I love, like, it's not I love, but to measure someone, if someone's really sick, is
by their habits.
Sick.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
So anyway, Sean phoned me. I was on my way to work. So there's an 8-hour difference, time difference. They behind us. And I was on my way to work at 9:30 in the morning, and Shawnee FaceTimed me, and as soon as I answered, I was like, "What's wrong?" And it was his girlfriend, and she was like, "Look, we have called the ambulance for your dad. He's battling to breathe."
Yeah.
So now I was like, holy shit. Now it's like full panic, like panic mode. How bad is it? You know, we don't know anything. But I actually forgot to tell you a pretty serious part. 3 days prior to that, my mum and my dad phoned me saying, look, Daddy was like coughing in the bathroom and like passed out and then hit his head on the toilet bowl. But his speech was like super slurred. Like he was super dazed or whatever. Mum was like, how long, if he's got a concussion, how long must he stay awake for? Because you know you shouldn't sleep after a concussion.
I'm like, my heart's like just listening to this.
It's like anxiety.
It's like anxiety. You're a good storyteller. Keep going.
So Mum, I was like, well, like at least 4 to 8 hours to be safe. Like don't let him go to sleep at all. Keep him awake. And then the next day I phoned and I was like, I think you need to go to the doctor, because he was like, I'm just dehydrated. I was like, bullshit, mate. Drink some water right now while I'm on the phone with you. And it was still like he was just off. And for that entire week, every day, I'd be phoning him like 2-3 times a day, being like, have you gone to the doctor? And the last time I phoned him, I said to him, have you gone to the doctor? And he said no. And I was like, you're so selfish. Like, I'm here in Australia fucking freaking out because you are not looking after yourself. And I threatened to phone the AMBO from Oz and send one to him, well, not from Australia, but like phone the ambulance in South Africa and send it to his address. And he was like, I promise I'll go to the doctor. Anyway, 3 days later or 2 days later, Shawnee was there. All of that happened. They phoned me saying they taking Dad to the hospital. They're calling the ambulance. African time, right? Ambulance doesn't come. Dad and Sean get in Sean's car. And they take my dad to the emergency room. And as soon as my dad got on the stretcher, he coded in front of my brother.
You're fucking kidding me.
Nah. Like, as soon as they put him on that stretcher,
holy fuck,
he fucking coded.
He just died.
Just boom. Just like coded. So Michaela, my brother's girlfriend, was staying at home with my mum. So Sean is having to deal with this all by himself.
Far out.
Yeah.
That's heavy shit.
Yeah.
And you know, how do they break that news to you? Like that's got to be a fucking shocker.
I was at the office. It's you know those days that you'll never forget.
Oh.
Like you'll never forget something like that. I was at the office and I remember getting a call, and I went in and I said to them, "Look, my dad's not well. I've just got a call. Your
dad's not well.
Yeah, I'm just gonna get. I'll be on my phone all day."
Yeah.
So by then I was looking at flights and stuff. Like, it wasn't really about the money aspect. It was about how to get there fast, because I could get a flight, but it was like 48-hour travel, 36-hour travel, where if I was in Sydney, I can fly direct on Qantas or Emirates and it's 15 hours and I'm home. Where here it's so different.
Yeah.
So they sent me home because I couldn't concentrate. I was beside myself.
I wouldn't even be at work.
Yeah. So Dad, my brother phoned me and he was like, look, it's really not looking good. He explained what had happened. He said they managed to revive him.
Okay.
So they did CPR and they managed to revive him. But Mum and Dad weren't on medical aid. Now, for the audience, in South Africa, if you don't have medical aid, you are going to a government hospital, and the chances of you dying in a government hospital in South Africa is probably 90%. It is horrific, to say the least. So Shawnee had taken Dad to a private hospital, so that means really large hospital bill, and they revived him there, and then they transported him to Stanger Hospital, which is really shitty. It's a really bad hospital, but one of the best in the region, right? In where they were. And I'd never been to Stanger, but I'll tell you a bit more about that a little bit later. And yeah, they transferred Dad to Stanger, and I think it feels so long ago. They had my dad on a ventilator, and then Mum had to go and say goodbye. Like the doctors were like, yeah, let's go and say goodbye.
That's tough.
So I'm here in my apartment in Carrara. I was still living in Carrara.
Yeah.
I had my ex-partner was there because we still lived together after we broke up. And he was there. Jess was there. Levi was there. I'm just thinking who else. Someone else was there. I had Dave, my best friend in Sydney, on the phone. So all of us literally had all our laptops, cell phones. I think Levi was on the phone with like immigration agents because we needed to see if I could leave the country without a visa. So he was on the phone to like just free call like consultants trying to see if I can leave. Jess was on one website. Dave on the phone in Sydney was on another website. I was on a website trying to find the cheapest and fastest flight back home. And Sean phoned me and was like, Daddy's not, he updated me. He's like, look, his organs are shutting down. We don't know what's wrong, but because by this time we had no idea. And then he said they're running more tests. And then I think it was that night before that they got the test results and said there was lesions on his lungs. Chain smoker dad, right? And I remember sitting out on the balcony, and everyone was at the house. Thank God, I've best friends, dude. And I remember saying to my brother, can I speak to him? And he was like, yeah, cool. So he put me on loudspeaker to my dad's ear. And dude, if I've ever begged for anything in my entire life, it was that day.
I'm like fucking getting teary.
Mate, I was literally begging my dad to stay alive until I got home. Sorry.
No, don't. I get it. I get it.
Oh, mate.
It's okay.
Sorry. All my friends were just like bawling because it was traumatic for them to go through and to witness. And I remember just being like, please stay home. I've booked my flight. I'm coming home. I'm coming to you. Just, you can go, but only once I've said goodbye. Like, my brother was crying and Jess was sobbing and Levi was crying. They just didn't know what to do with me. And after that, I just got off the phone with my brother and he was like, we'll let you know. I said, please tell the doctor, don't move him. Let him I will be home in 2 days. It's like 48 hours. Surely they can just keep him where he is. Don't move him. And he was like, cool. And I got on the phone with Dave and I was having a chat with Dave. I saw my brother phoning and I knew straight away.
Gone.
Dude, there was something inside of me that it was like, I don't know. I'm not a religious being. I prefer to say I'm more spiritual. I believe that we go somewhere after. Don't know. That's a whole nother podcast as well. But something told me, and I phoned my brother back, and he's like, Dinks, that's my nickname back home. Daddy's gone. And dude, if I tell you, Jess was at home by herself with me because the guys had gone to get food. Mate, I had it was almost like an out of body experience, and it sounds so dramatic.
I know. I know exactly how you felt because of in 2016 I nearly lost my dad.
Yeah.
And this is where I'm making the connection with father figures. Is he went for 6 months without anyone noticing there was something wrong.
Fuck.
No, for your dad.
Yeah.
So he.
Oh, I thought your dad. Jesus.
So
that's crazy.
He, your dad is a father figure, father role. He wants to keep everyone safe. So his main thing, won't tell anybody, just to keep that fatherly role.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere, so my dad finished a half Ironman.
Oh shit.
At the finish line. This is why I'm very similar when it comes to, you know, a higher power or something looking down. So at the finish line, he flatlined, died.
What?
Yeah, exact same. So
What?
he finished the entire race. He fell to the ground and had a heart attack and died. He was pronounced dead. He didn't have a heartbeat for something like 15 minutes. So
Dude.
10 minutes is fucked. 15 to 20 minutes is brain damage.
Yeah.
So he was gone 15 minutes. They used the how do you say it? Defib. Let's just go with defib. Brought him back to life. My sister's watching it. My cousins are watching it at the finish line.
Dude.
And I'm in, remember this, I'm in Melbourne. I don't know anyone. I have no one to console me. I have no one to talk to. I get the call. This is the thing that fucks me up the most is the entire race. So he had a blocked artery?
Artery, yeah.
Somewhere in his body. He could have died or drowned. He had it for so long, but yet he did it at the finish line, the safest place to have a heart attack. He could have had it on the bike. A 90-kilometer bike ride at any point could have carked it. On the run, could have carked it.
Yeah. Swim, could have drowned.
Yeah. And you know, I get the call. Kent, please be calm. Jess is in a different country. I have
because she's still an air hostess.
So I get the call. Kent, please be calm. But this is where I don't want to cry either.
It's okay.
I get the call. Kent, your dad's just had a heart attack at the finish line. As soon as I heard that and how calm my cousin was when she was saying that, it didn't. They thought he was gone. I thought at that moment
immediately
I had lost my dad.
Yeah.
I had this out. I felt like I was on drugs. I felt like it was like a trauma response.
Yeah.
To feel like, and this is where I connect those dots of getting away from that situation. My brain automatically went into this drug response.
Yeah.
Okay, to get away from the situation, you need to feel like you're on drugs.
Yeah.
To get away from.
Yeah.
You know, not to feel that emotion. And I felt like I had actually taken some pills, and I had this feeling of like I couldn't sit still. I was all over the
Pace.
I was pacing. But it felt like I had taken drugs.
Yeah.
So anyway, I get on that first flight to Sydney, or Penrith, where the Ironman was, and he was he was gone. They had him hooked up to breathing machines and all that, and walking in and seeing that and seeing your father figure. And this is where I can relate. It's your dad. It's it's the guy that brought you up.
Yeah.
To see him in that state, the guy that you looked up to, your protector, to see him so vulnerable and in that condition was the most gut wrenching, and for the audience, you know, it is the most sickening feeling to see your protector, the guy that brought you up and taught you life lessons, to be so beat down and gone. It's a really, really horrible feeling. And again, it's one of those days I'll never forget. And I think the worst of it was him waking up and him not having memory, and not actually, he remembered everybody else in the room except me.
Stop it.
So he looked at me and said, "Who are you?" And that was the moment the cry you get when you've got no control in your leg. You collapse into a mess on the ground.
Yeah.
And people have got to hold. I couldn't hold myself up.
Oh my God.
So I had to leave the room. Anyway, it progressed. He got better. He's alive today, which thank God for that. So
shit.
I going back to yours, I completely and utterly understand that. So now, moving forward with that one, he's passed away, he's gone. And it's not like 13. How long? 13 months.
Yeah.
Between.
It would be the 30th of December this year. Will be 2 years.
And with your mum,
Mum was 13 months apart between mum and dad.
So for your mental health, how the fuck did you not fall into a heavy, deep, dark depression of drugs, alcohol? Like, you probably, you know, keep that to yourself, but did you?
Internally by myself, yeah.
And how the, like, what did you, and this is what I want for the listeners too, you know, because the whole point of this podcast is to have real conversation about real fucking issues.
Yeah.
And I'm getting really worked up and passionate about this right now, because you guys are not the only ones that are going through shit. You know, David Goggins, one of my, you know, the guys I look up to, you know, his thing is everybody in this world that, you know, your parents' parents, your uncle, your auntie are all fucked up in one way or another.
Oh my God, yes.
But we all have a really, really good way of hiding it.
Yes.
And, you know, what did you do to keep yourself afloat and not kill yourself? Like, what did you do?
All right, so this is where it gets heavy. I remember that night trying to sleep. I don't know, for some weird reason I felt scared. Like, I felt like almost like my dad was there and I wasn't familiar with that feeling, right?
I don't even want to. Yeah.
And I remember waking up the next day being so numb, just like a zombie, and saying to Nate, I have to go and get pills for how I'm feeling right now, because there's no way I can get on a 15-hour or 24-hour travel to South Africa feeling this way by myself. And I went to the doctor and he gave me diazepam. And I've never taken anything like that.
Shit knocked you out.
Yeah, mate. Let me tell you, I was drooling on my neighbour on the plane.
Yeah.
And I remember going so quick. So from time Dad died to the time I got on the plane to the time I arrived in Johannesburg or Durban, I still really wish I could remember where I don't even remember where I flew into. Shit. Anyway, so until from here to South Africa, I don't remember much.
I think that'd also be another trauma response, like
100%
to just
blocking it out.
Block it out.
And I remember getting home and Shawnee fetching me from the airport and saying, "Are you ready to see Mum?" I was like, heavy, because now it was Sean and I. It was only us four ever. So Dad's gone. Now isn't it weird at how when you get older, you become the parent almost with your parents? And I remember saying, yeah, cool. I got my mum a bangle. And as soon as I walked into the front door, I saw Mum in a wheelchair. So now by this time she's wheelchair bound. And we had been separated for 2 years. I hugged Mum and we had a cry, and it was one of the most beautiful, special moments. But it was more of the fact we got to just keep going. So between Sean and I, we had the stress of everything. We had a storage unit that was packed to the brim full of shit of 35 years of history with Mum and Dad. So it was almost like we just had to keep going. We didn't have time to sit down and mentally prepare ourselves or go through the grief. The grief had to be on hold because we had to look after Mum. We had to get Mum from Durban to Joburg. We had to either make a decision of we're going to hire a 24-hour care for her or we're going to put her in a home. Now, you know, my parents always joked, like, when we get older, you're just going to throw us in a home.
No, yeah. You had to.
We had to put her in a home because Sean couldn't look after her. We also had to look at costs. So it was just bizarre. And only once I got home.
This wouldn't really just set in. Because
now I'm back in my natural environment of what I'm used to. And now I just keep thinking, what now? Like, everyone else moves on. You know, my dad died, but everybody else's lives just carry on. Like, the grief's still within me. And I remember having a conversation with one of my best mates in Sydney, Benny, and Benny was like, dude, you need to deal with this shit. And I was like, yep, cool. Training religiously. I would go on a 10K run in the morning and I'd train at night, or vice versa. It was like I was going hard. Dude, I lost so much weight. I was weighing like 57 kilos and I'm not a short girl. I was so skinny. And I was just, to me, that was my way of, it's either going to be that or it's either going to be the drugs and the alcohol route. Because Lou, one of my other friends, had just lost her dad, and she dealt with the death of her dad in a more traumatic way, whereas I dealt with it in traumatic way as well, not good on your body, but just overly excessive. I was
hammer, keep going. Don't even
shin
think
splints,
about
dude.
it.
I didn't care. I'd wear 2 pairs of compression socks. I didn't give a shit. I was just like, if I feel the pain, great. If I don't, sweet.
But see, in a way, because I've been there, it's that pain's good.
Yes.
And that pain, I deserve that pain because there's nothing else I could have done. And my
and
parents,
the guilt.
And again, another trauma response. I get it. I get it.
I think that was the biggest thing that I was thinking. It was the grief. It was more the guilt of the last conversation I had with my dad because I told him he was selfish.
And then you look back on that and you go, no, like
it was fear.
It's fear, but it is also selfish.
Selfish, 100%.
And we always try to justify to ourselves and go, oh, that wasn't good because he didn't like it, but because it's the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
It was so selfish.
6 months or however long, didn't tell you guys whatsoever, and then suddenly, boom, gone.
Boom. Yeah.
That is selfish.
Yeah, 100%. And my thing was I was carrying that guilt around of, oh my God, the last time I spoke to my dad, I called him selfish and I never spoke to him again. I screamed at him and that was it. And only...
Well, I think in a way you need to own that.
Yeah.
And go, yeah, that's the truth.
It only in hindsight, though.
It's funny. You always look back and you can connect the dots.
Yeah, you can.
Always.
You can be like, wow, okay, I was in that headspace. I was doing this at the time. Like the different stages of my life. Like, so after Dad died, I met another guy and I started dating another guy. And this is where it gets so screwed up because I was distracting myself with my fitness, my running, my friends.
What about your job?
My job, a dude I just met. So I was like, wherever I could be distracted, I was taking it up. And I was too scared to feel that kind of pain because I knew it was going to be so hard. And they say there's like 7 stages of grief. Mate, if I tell you when my mum died, I'd only maybe 8 weeks prior to mum dying, did I only grieve my dad. I'd gone months, like 11 months without dealing with my dad's death. But now the universe took me out of my environment here on the Gold Coast, put me in Sydney where I had no close friends. Well, like I've got here down the road. All my close friends were an hour 2 drive away. In an apartment in Sydney by myself. My partner at the time was working night shift. So I would work a normal job, come home and be by myself. And that, I think, was the universe's way of being like, right, mate, we've given you so many chances to deal with your grief.
Now fucking deal with
you.
it. Yeah, okay.
You're going to deal with it. And if I tell you, I wanted to die. I told Sarah, my best friend yesterday, because we were talking about me coming to do this.
It's okay. Like I'm. This is an open space, and
you and the audience are only going to know.
Use this. Take your time, please.
Sarah was the first one I told yesterday. I was sitting in my apartment in Sydney, and I was at home by myself. And I remember getting off the phone with Ben, and I was just crying, dude. Like,
gut-wrenching. You can physically feel that pain.
It's like that physical heartache.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can
And I remember lying on the floor, crying to Benny, going, mate, is this ever going to go away? Like, is this pain ever going to leave? And he's like, you got to do the work.
That's fucking powerful.
And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, have you done the work? Have you meditated? Have you journaled? And he just started listing. And I was like, no. Prior to that conversation, I just walked out of my apartment to my lift trying to get to the roof. And got to the roof, and I couldn't get to the roof. I couldn't get in. Security, obviously. Went downstairs, got on that phone with Ben, and that was my perspective. Have you done the work?
But have you, like, look at that from a sort of metaphorical standpoint? You know, you've tried to get to the top to do that, to kill yourself. You can't. Roadblock. All right, let's come back. Let's come back down to earth. Let's come back down, and let's just get on the phone.
Yep.
And then he drops that bomb on you, and then you go,
it was like,
big light bulb moment. Okay. See that? It's funny with a lot of these stories and journeys that people go through. That's all it fucking takes is a light bulb moment. A simple sentence, a simple action to just, you know, when the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Yep.
And that is like a divine experience for you. And whoever said it to you with this Benny guy wouldn't even have known that was a divine moment for you.
After that, that's when the healing and stuff started happening because I'd just started my road of like journaling, writing down my thoughts every day. But I started with just being like grateful, like list 3 things that you're grateful for. And then, you know, do your affirmations. So I'd be like, I am starting to heal. I am grieving my dad. I was telling myself, this is what I'm doing. And I'm working through it now. I'm unpacking. And a friend of mine, an old friend of mine, came back into my life at this point. And we started talking, but he was going through something super screwed up in his like professional world. And we never had that like deep, intimate like relationship where we could talk about our feelings. But somehow the universe brought us together, and he was a massive part of me going like, I'm not okay.
It's funny, like the thing I always follow is perception is projection. So what, you know, the people that are in your life right now are meant to be in your life 100%. Because of who you are. You know, drug dealers hang out with drug dealers.
Yes.
Really successful entrepreneurs hang out with really successful entrepreneurs. You know, birds of a feather flock together. So, you know, these people that are in your life are with you because of what's happened. And I think that it's just a really beautiful way to put that.
Yeah. 100%. And that's when we started learning about, like, have you ever heard of Brene Brown? No. So she's this author, dude, that you should really read her book. It's about vulnerability and how vulnerability can change everybody's life.
Oh, yeah.
Because you take in, normally when you talk vulnerability, shame is attached to it because you feel shameful because you feel a certain way, or a girl gets raped and she's vulnerable enough to tell somebody she's been raped, but then shame comes along with it. And so this author has dedicated her entire life to educating people and studying vulnerability.
It's a power though. Being vulnerable and opening yourself up gives permission for others to do the exact same thing.
100%. What I learned is if I look unapproachable, excuse me, if I look, I'm going to cry.
It's okay.
So
big breaths. It's okay. Take your time, please. Big breaths. Center.
Wow. If I let it go, dude, it's just going to be like ugly crying. Like I can't even. All right.
You're here to give a
I'm
message.
okay.
This is it. Let us know.
So this friend of mine put me in the forefront of Simon Sinek.
Yeah.
You familiar?
Yes.
And he is massive on vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
So I read a couple of his books and that was when my life changed.
You know, I had the guest I had on last week. You know, once you start taking care of yourself, watch how everything around you starts to change.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you're taking care of yourself at this point, and then
It just all came together.
Mm.
It was like the stars aligned.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, man. Wow.
Can't you, like, you can see, again, 2020 hindsight, you look back and you go, this, and I'm a true believer in everything that happens to us is setting us up for the next big thing, whether it be good or bad, whether it be, you know, rejection or getting the job, it's all setting us up. So you've lost both parents. What's the silver lining in that? Of course, that fucking sucks. Like, sucks isn't even the word for it.
Nah.
It is disgusting. And you've come through that, and you probably still are going through it, but that has set you up for the next big thing. And this is how I can relate ultra running to it. You know, you go through the really shit time, peaks and valleys. You go, you know, on the recent
inclines.
It gets really, really hard. For your case, this is really hard. There is no, you know, I can't say ultra running and what you went through is the same, but very similar instances. You went through the fucking shit. You copped it more than most. And that sets you up for the next big thing. Now you are well equipped to deal with whatever's coming next. And that could be good or bad. But now looking back, you go, okay, I'm ready. Let's do this. So I just love that you know, you started taking care of yourself. Yeah. And then you start to blossom. Everything starts to, you know, get better. Of course, you're going to go up and down. That's just life. It's great, but it's the truth. As soon as you turn up for yourself, because we turn up in our job, you know, for your family, but in this day and age, and I think this can be related back to social media and everything we were talking about prior. With this social media culture we have now, we are turning up for everybody else. We want the likes, and we want people to look at us the way we want to be looked at, but we're not actually turning up
for who matters.
And yes, of course, your parents and shit and all that matter.
Yeah.
But we forget to look in the mirror and go, okay, I got to take care of this guy. I got to stop giving a fuck about what everybody else thinks, because in the end, even if, like, fuck family off for a second.
100%.
In the end, it's just us.
Dude, my dad used to say a saying. He used to say, Dinks, when you come into this world, you come in alone. Inevitably, you're entering alone. Yes, you have your mum's help, but you don't remember it. You coming into this world alone. When you check out, you're going alone. And in between coming in and leaving, you are stuck with you for your whole life. So in between that, you have to make you happy. And I remember saying to myself after going through like everything I'd went through with mum and dad, I don't love myself. I did not love myself. I always felt like the connection of self-love became like narcissistic. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you love yourself. You're a narcissist. But then I started educating myself and reading articles and like watching documentaries on self-love. And it's so much deeper.
And hard,
painful.
And this is why people, you know, we are a culture of lazy people. And who the fuck wants to do the work? No one, because you've everything's done for you already. You Foods, go buy Hello Foods, Hello Fresh. Gets delivered to
your
you.
protein shakes.
You don't have
bottle.
to do anything anymore.
Nah.
And finally, this comes up, and this is why I find a lot of people are still stuck in where they are, because we are lazy.
Lazy.
I was lazy up until I wanted to fucking die.
Yeah.
Transition.
Put it lightly.
Yeah.
Jesus, mate.
And in this day and age, I think there's now a shift.
Yeah.
There's definitely a shift, but still people don't want to do the work. Who the fuck wants to meditate for 15 minutes out of the day?
And then the thing is, people go, I don't have the time.
Oh, man.
Make the time.
This is from last week's episode. We got 24 hours in a day, and, 15 minutes out of your day is one
session of scrolling on Instagram. Oh. Half a session, actually.
A run. I don't have time to run. All right. This is a whole podcast in itself as well. We are lazy. This
100%.
Society we live in now, whether we like it to say it or not, and I'll put my hand up and say I'm fucking lazy. But you and me are doing the work because of what has happened to us. And I think everyone needs to go through some sort of adversity to hit that rock bottom, because
100%.
If you don't, then you have nothing to compare to. You're just going on that path. And funnily enough, the fair few people or people that are and have hit rock bottom and that are turning it around are funnily enough in the same group of friends or know one another. Birds of a feather flock together. And I wouldn't be meeting the people I'm meeting today if it wasn't for me taking the stand and going, hey, I want to
totally
do something about it.
Totally. I think if without the hard times, you cannot appreciate the good. Can you imagine if life was just like smooth sailing all the time?
But then you would get used to that smooth sailing.
Exactly.
And then where's your next high?
100%.
Yeah.
So you'll plateau like with happiness, but then when something, just a little thing that's bad that happens to you, it will feel like your world is crumbling. And that's why it always happens, like a bad thing happens, but then an extra bad thing happens and like knocks you straight off your feet, right?
And that I say to myself with that shit, I go like, just fucking come at me. Like I'm
ready.
I want to grit my teeth into this thing and it's going to suck and it's going to come at me. That's what I want. And I'm ready for that next big thing. And I can feel it coming. In one of my first podcasts I mentioned, I haven't had, 2 or 3 weeks where, nothing bad is like something has always happened. Something bad, whether it be with family or friends or work or anything like that. So something always riddled with anxiety. But now because of this mindset I've taken on, it's like I'm ready. Like fucking come at me. I'm ready for this shit.
Yeah.
Now to pivot this, so for you, when you say do the work, we're doing running. Yeah. Meditation, journaling. Yeah. 3 things you're grateful for. Yeah. That's one of my favorites. I've started doing 2 things in the past 2 weeks. I high-five myself in the mirror. It sounds so fucking dumb.
That's legend.
But when I'm feeling really fucking down, I'm not even kidding. I'll look in the mirror and go, you fucking got this. Because as we just said.
How good is that?
I'm the only one that can get me out of it.
Yeah.
And I'm the only one in that mirror. I can high-five someone else, but they don't know what I'm going through. So it's that connection with yourself. And it's so simple. And there's another one I've recently been doing. Her name's Mel Robbins. Public speaker, done a few TED Talks. Yeah. Come up with this rule, with the 5-second rule. And it's to rewire your brain to just go do it. Yeah. So you count backwards 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And once you start that countdown, you've already committed to the process. Yeah. So you count back 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you just do the thing. Yeah. So it doesn't give your brain time to have that negative thought about yourself. Yeah. So you catch yourself out, think, fuck you, you're a dickhead, or you're not good enough. Or boom, you catch yourself.
Can't do that.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get it. And you tell yourself internally to stop doing that habit.
It's like actually a form of manifestation, right?
Yeah. So it's if you want to form a new habit, very, very good way
Yeah.
to do it. So they're your main ones that you sort of use to come out of that depression.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with this point, with you've lost your mum, you've gone into this, you're coming out of it. What are some other personal development tools, books, people that you follow, anyone in your life that has been a major key role or played a major key role in your life to point you on this trajectory? Yeah.
Firstly, I would say the biggest thing to help me with all of what I've gone through was my self-love journey.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe I'm going to tell you this, but I'm going to just do it, whatever. So I took 6 months and I abstained.
That's cool.
Yeah, because I felt...
It's funny. This is another... Everything you're saying has been said in the past two weeks.
Really?
Yeah, so I don't watch porn anymore.
Oh, you don't?
No. So that's a personal choice because I'm giving up my...
Addiction to
addiction, because us boys, including you.
Yeah, I'm outnumbered here.
You know?
He's shaking his head.
Really? Cool. Oh, that's fucking
Sick.
awesome. Sick. Yeah, so I don't watch porn just for that cause of it's not real.
Yeah.
It's
a fantasy.
It is essentially it's not a drug. It is I'm not going to call it a drug. It's something you get addicted to. It's something that's not real. It's something you go to.
It's Instagram.
Yeah,
basically.
It's something you go to just go through the motions and go, yep, I like that. Like, watch, get it done, whatever. So I've recently just completely stopped from doing that. And funnily enough, the relationship I have with myself, the relationship I have with the people around me, it's sort of like a power to because it is so overlooked. No one gives a fuck. But once you... It takes away the power of being a man or a woman.
Yeah.
So, funnily enough, my relationship with Jess has gotten a lot closer. Not from a sexual point of view, but just being present with my partner.
Totally.
So you did that 6 months. Cool.
And I honestly thought it was going to be way, way harder.
It's not, because it's not your focus.
Nah, it's just like I set myself... I had so many of my friends being like, Dani, you're never going to do it.
But think about it, because they've that's their life.
Yeah.
What you focus on, you find. They're focused on that. That's one of their key things.
Exactly.
But now you've got you're on self-love. You're on a self-love journey.
Totally.
You want to start exploring. Sex is always going to be there, but you want to start exploring. Yeah. Everything other than that. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome.
So I did that, and I think that was my biggest thing where I was like, I'm going to high-five myself. Like, I should start doing that, actually. If I was doing that, I would definitely give it my high-five.
If you feel shit, high-five yourself, because that person is the only one that is knowing what you're going through, and to go, yeah, fuck, you're doing a good job. Boom.
Totally.
In the mirror. You should do that as well.
Yeah. And talking.
Yeah.
I stopped.
That's I've said this in previous posts with talking. We, especially in this day and age, there's a lot of mental health awareness.
100%.
Excellent. Great.
But
no one's doing anything fucking about it.
Yeah, of substance about it.
Of substance. Yeah. And you set up these GoFundMes and all that, and that's great. But chucking $50 at a problem and going, oh, that's going to go away because it feeds the ego. So now with Run for Life, I want the real raw conversation.
Let's just cut the shit and be human beings.
Let's be human. What are we hiding from one another?
Yeah.
There's nothing to hide because we're all fucked up.
Totally.
And we're all trying to hide it.
We're all navigating.
We're all, you look around and you see these people with their heads, screwed on. You're going, oh, that guy's got it all under control. And then you go get to know him and he goes, oh, no, I'm, $700,000 in debt. I'm fucked. I'm fucked for life.
Totally.
But they've got a good way of hiding it. So this is the thing, conversation, conversation isn't the only thing. There are so many other things, but conversation and having a conversation like this is one of the best ways, in my opinion, to help mental health. And when I say conversation, I don't, I'm feeling sad. That's not, oh, that's really, really bad. And, tap you on the leg. Oh, you'll get better soon.
You're
I'm
right.
talking, let's go deep on it. Let's really unwrap it and unravel it and find out what makes it tick. Because once you do that, everything else dissipates and you realize it's not as bad as what we thought it was at the time.
It reminds me of my thoughts of I think it's a great cause, and I've got nothing against it, but I don't think it should be a day to ask someone,
Are you okay?
are you okay?
Mm.
Mate, I think we should be doing that
fucking marketing.
Yeah, it is. It's a marketing tool, and I think the problem is that there's this hype of it's are you okay day, and people are just sharing it to be cool. Are you actually asking your friends that you've just shared this post on Instagram? Are you actually asking your family or sending a message to all your mates going hey buddy, are you okay? Mm-hmm. Not just on are you okay day.
Once again, I had this conversation last night. Mental health has become a trend.
Yes.
It's trending.
Yes.
It's not, I'm not saying it's cool, but right now, and for those who are listening that completely disagree, fuck you, because this is what I do.
Totally.
And these are the people I talk to. Mental health has become a trend. It is a lot of people wear the mental health badge as I've got a mental health problem. Okay, cool. That's absolutely, that really fucking sucks. What are you doing about it? Oh, no, I just I put up an Instagram post. I put up, I just tell people that I've got a problem. Cool. That's great. What are you doing to help your situation?
What are you doing? What is the work you're putting in?
What's the work you're doing?
Yeah.
Oh, I do a 10-minute meditation. Okay, that's a great start. Amazing. Once a week, but you're still going out drinking, doing drugs. So is this a ploy to say, hey, I need attention, or are you actually struggling? And this is a very, very tough topic because of, you don't want to offend people.
Nah.
But right now, with growing suicide rates, it is a topic that has to be spoken about because people are fucking it up for the rest of us.
Yeah.
That are really, really struggling.
100%.
People without problems who are doing it for attention. And this is true. This is a fucking thing that happens. People without problems are saying it for attention, especially on social media.
Clout.
It's for clout. And I've seen it, you've seen it, and it's giving it a fucking bad name.
It is.
It really, really is.
It's taking away the actual meaning of that special charity or that special cause. You know what I mean? It's now a trend to have an influencer as an ambassador of a charity. My biggest thing
but if you just pull that apart, you're getting an influencer to promote, market a mental health organization. Why would we need to do that? Because they want to raise not awareness,
the money.
It's raise funds. Yeah. So awareness is there. We all, as I've said again and again, we all know depression sucks, anxiety sucks, PTSD sucks. But what are we doing as a society to break that boundary, to really step it up? And again, this is what I want to do with Run for Your Life and the Running Deep podcast, is to get real people on the. I don't want a fast elite runner at the 5K. Oh, if you are, come for a run. Yeah. But I want the real person that is struggling, the mum, single mum who is struggling.
Yeah.
That needs
battling to pay her bills and look after her 3 kids.
And just to be around people who are similar. Again, birds of a feather flock together. Like-minded people. Yeah. And this is what I find with the people that are following the journey and yours. Very similar. Very, very, very similar stories, and people that get connected to this narrative and this story and my story, they're all got a similar story. And this is who I want to attract into, this audience. And for you guys listening, I just went on a fucking tangent.
I love that. I freaking love that.
And it is real and raw because I'm in this space. This is something I'm passionate about, and I'm not afraid anymore to speak my mind. Because I know my truth, and I know the truth of mental health because I've been there. And that's why I'm getting these people on like yourself who understand, who have been through trials and tribulations and know what their truth is. I'm not saying others' truths are wrong. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying that other people aren't depressed. There's a certain way around it, and there's a certain ego now around mental health and mental health awareness that's ruining it. Yeah. Yeah.
I've just had a thought. When we work together, We weren't really close, were we?
Oh, that's your phone.
Russia.
Mm.
Oh.
No, but we
weren't close.
we could appreciate each other and the work.
Yes. But if you think about it now, I've watched your journey and I've 100% appreciated what you've done with, Run for Your Life and the Running Deep podcast. And it's like our mindsets now are on the same page because you're healing. You went through some hectic shit. I've gone through some hectic shit. And now it's like we've
aligned.
We've created a friendship now where it's like, hey, dude, I need help on this, or can we just have a chat, or whatever the case may be. It's like, oh, okay. I feel the old Kent I couldn't sit down here with and be like, mate, this is what I've gone through.
I don't think anyone.
Nah.
No.
But because you've gone through what you've gone through and you've been so open and vulnerable about what you've gone through, that's been given me the courage to be like, yeah, I want to sit down and have a conversation with you, because that's how we connect. And
100%.
We've connected, and it's a great friendship.
I appreciate you, and I appreciate what you've said today, especially being so open about this. And it's tough. That's a hard thing to do. So, I think there's a lot of power in that. And I think after this, you will realize what you've just done. And there is a big power of being, especially on a social media platform. And, what we're doing right now. There is definitely huge power in that.
Massive.
So just quickly, how are we going for time? Oh, cool. That's not too bad.
How much time do we have?
Look, I think we could land this. Let's land this pretty shortly.
Cool.
So I think what I want you to tell the audience now, I think let's come down, because I'm planning it. I want to get back on.
Cool.
Later, couple weeks, couple months, and that we can see how you're going.
Yeah.
Because this is all still recent. This is really condensed. Like, this is years and years condensed into our 20.
Yeah.
And there's much more to talk about.
Oh my God, we can go off on a tangent.
So, let's land this thing. Let's bring it back down to earth. Because I got fucking passionate just then. I don't know if you thought that as well.
I love
got
it.
really into that. So is there a message? Is there something, you want to tell a younger you, a person on the other side of the microphone or the screen? What is a message? What is something that's helped you? Something that's helped you to come out of that depression.
Remove the shame of how you're feeling. Don't make yourself feel I am unworthy of getting help or talking to someone, or you are afraid of judgment. If somebody judges you, that is a projection of themselves. And it's one of those things of, if you're battling and you want to, it doesn't have to be a best mate. You can find comfort in speaking to a stranger, but it's just opening yourself up to having conversations, and real conversations, not these shallow, superficial conversations. To me, small talk is such a waste of your time, and time is the most valuable thing we have. So engage in a soulful, wholesome conversation. Put your phone down for 5 minutes and give somebody time, because you never know what can come from that conversation. You can never know how somebody else will open up to you, or how much they can help you heal. And I think it's just speaking and owning your story. Saying, yeah, I've had some shit, but I'm here. I've got the best friends to pick me up when I'm down. But I think it's a matter of just speaking and asking for help.
That was really, really good. That was really, 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 really good. I am so happy we got to do this today. I'm so
Thank
happy you, Elijah, got to witness that and be a part of that.
He's there.
I'm just happy you boys got to just be a part of that because that was really good.
Thank you.
That was amazing. How do you feel? That was like it's a mini counseling session.
Liberated.
It's good.
It's so liberating.
I'm happy. I'm
Yeah.
glad that you got
Thank
to
you.
say what you said, especially on a platform like this.
Mm.
It's amazing.
Thank
I'm
you.
really, really glad to have done that with you. And we'll
I'm
definitely
proud
do
of
it again.
you as well. I
I'm
just
proud
wanna
of
say
you.
I'm proud of you.
I'm proud of you. No, I'm really happy. I feel good. I feel
Yeah.
fresh. That was powerful. That was great. I'm so stoked that you boys were here
Thank
for that.
you.
I'm stoked.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming
So much
on.
love for you, my friend.
Mwah. Peace.